Hey, so Dick, Racy, and Helen were on their way to their favorite amusement park, late in the evening, Six Dick Valley. And they were going there for the Halloween Funhouse, because, Six Dick Alley is famous for their very, very kinky haunted houses. And, Helen and Dick were planning to maybe, sneak into some scary corner or maybe do a little boo 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 themselves, because Helen likes doing that around Halloween. It figures, no one knows why, and Dick's just good to go. But anyway, they didn't go there because right when they were even waiting in that long, car or parking lot, that line, waiting to get, and waiting, and they just got into the first place to buy the parking, the little stub for parking. And the commissioner said there was an emergency and they had to come now. So they had to buy the stub for parking, pull it, to do a U-turn and just leave right afterwards. And so they were in a place, but they got over it. And so now they're at the commissioner's office, sitting there in front of the commissioner, who's telling them the news. And the news is, Dick, we got a serious situation on our hands. There are going to be 3 different fundraising meetings for the police association tonight, and we're worried we're not going to get any funding because there's a lobbying group working against us, which could mean that we won't get any funding, which could mean that then the police department will just have to close down and you'll be out of a job, Dick. And so will I. Of course, I'll be the last one out of a job, but still the potential is there. And Dick was like, well, how far down on the firing line am I? He says, well, quite frankly, Dick, you'd probably be the first because you're the toughest and the bravest and the best, and so you'd probably be able to handle unemployment the most successfully. So, now Dick's contemplating this, and so and Helen's going, well, what exactly is the problem? Why wouldn't you get any funds? He says, because the opposition lobby, which we think is being fronted by some terrible, evil criminal, he's hired one of the most successful lobbyists ever known to humankind. He's hired the Dick Swinger, Dick. And that's when Dick goes, what? I thought he was in jail. He says, no, the Dick Swinger's never been caught. And, other than for molestation, he doesn't really do anything illegal. And Helen says, I don't understand. And that's when the commissioner says, well, you're innocent, Helen, you're innocent. See, what the Dick Swinger does is that he's not a person, he's a gnome. And quite frankly, he came from another universe called the South Park universe, where he was a member of a clan known as the Underpants Gnomes. But apparently he's separated from them, and now he's in our dimension as a political lobbyist. And gnomes are very small. Basically, they're about the size of my nose. And because of that, he's a very effective lobbyist because he just swings from dick to dick. So just imagine 7 of the most powerful and, even more importantly, richest men in the world. They're just standing around and they're thinking about maybe giving a little dab of their money to this person, or maybe that person, or this cause, or that organization. And what the Dick Swinger does, Helen, is that he crawls into the pocket and just starts, moving around and making little motions. And whenever the person above him says he's going to do something he likes, he goes, the guy goes, ooh, ooh. And so he's unconsciously, you see, he's attracted more in that direction than, say, another direction because subliminally he's received a sort of positive reinforcement to it. And so if that doesn't work, you see, what happens is that the Dick Swinger can crawl out and then, out of the pocket, or sometimes he can cut a little hole through the pocket, and then he actually attacks and assaults the underwear, which apparently he's very good at dealing with. And then he can crawl into the underwear, you see, and then what he can do is cut the underwear open and a hole in the pants, through the fly, and he'll swing from that dick like Tarzan from Vine, okay, onto the next person's dick who may say, well, maybe I'll give my money to this cause. And if it's what the Dick Swinger wants him to do, he'll swing from the head. Ooh. But if he isn't, he'll swing from the nuts. Ow! And so that's how he subtly guides the entire process to his liking. See, he's one of the most efficient and effective and quite frankly, most dangerous lobbyists, political lobbyists that our nation has ever known. And now he's right here affecting us local police folks who just wanted a little bit of increase in money so we can have more horrors. So we can book more horrors. Dick says, my God. And Helen says, so we're out to catch a little man who swings from dick to dick? So now they're on the car again, and they're going from, they're going to the first, fundraiser, and Helen says, I have no idea how we're going to handle this. He says, it's very simple. We'll go to all 3 fundraisers and make sure he doesn't affect anything. And then, hey, what's that? Isn't that one of the biggest criminals in all the known land? Isn't he just standing in front of a jewelry store? He's not doing anything. He saw it. He's going, hi, Dick! Huh, I almost waved back, but anyway. Well, anyway, this is more important. All right, so anyway, now we got to get going here. So we got to get there. Now I have a plan, Helen. I have a plan for how we're going to deal with this first enterprise. So that they get there, and it's this lavish ballroom, chandeliers, and expensive drinks, and little people carrying them around on silver trays. You want an hors d'oeuvre? And and all sorts of things. And all the hors d'oeuvres, by the way, are shaped like sexual symbols. So there's a little pink penis sushi piece, and there's the almond tits, chocolate covered almond tits, and and other things like that. And what's another one? Oh yeah, the popsicle and the little peach anus with a little popsicle in it. So anyway, and so Helen's munching on some and daintily sucking, and Dick's got a drink. He said, now Helen, it's very important. All you need to do is to stand next to me while I insinuate myself into this shoulder to shoulder with these rich, powerful, arrogant men. And so anyway, they go together and they insinuate into the midst of these, powerful elite men. And they're all saying, well, of course I want to give more money to the police. You can always get money. You never go wrong giving money to the police. and just goes, ow! Well, of course, the last couple of times the cops were in my place, they didn't really do that much. Maybe I should invest more in private security. Ooh. And then, the next one, next one says, well, I don't know. I think that having police is better for the whole, polis, as opposed to just our part of the polis. I mean, the police is for the whole. Ow! Well, maybe you're right. Maybe private security really is the way to go. Ooh! And so Dick says, this is worse than I thought. Helen here was, wait for a moment, and I'm going to start saying, no, absolutely, please give money to the cops, because if we don't get, if the cops aren't funded, then they'll be coming and robbing your houses. They at least need, the more teams you get on the ball, to run interference, then the better you are, right? Yeah, give money to the cops. And that's when he goes, ow! There's like this demonic demon had taken its thumb and his forefinger and touched the claws together and encircled that whole grip right around his nuts, like, ow! And it was all he could do, all his manly will, not to just blurt out, no, but that's a terrible idea, terrible, forget what I said. Instead, he just grit his teeth. But then he realized he had to say something like, maybe it's not so bad to have, have private security too, have both, And sure enough, that's when he got the swing, and it was like, But that's when Dick's trap worked, you see, because he was so, no one ever has a woman in these circles, right? So Helen was the only woman in this little circle of power of rich, elite, power-hungry men. And what happened is that when the Dick swingers swang from, Dick's dick to go to the next person, he didn't realize it was a woman and she had a pussy and there was nothing to grab onto, so he went, ah! And fell 4 feet down or so, it was just like, ah! Because you see, there was nothing to grab onto. And so it was like this terrible fall. You could hear this scream because, the gnome is really small. The Dick Swinger is very small. So what would have just seemed like a couple feet to him was like an 8-story drop. And, you just heard this scream like, help me! And so anyway, so the Dick says, okay, well, we won't catch him now because we need to make sure the other two go our way too. She says, well, why don't we just catch him now? Where'd he go? Oh, he's pretty fast, but it's okay. They've already donated all their money. Let's get to the next fundraiser. So anyway, now they're in the car again, and Helen says, Dick, would it really be so bad if there weren't any police? And they just stop in the middle of the street. A car slams to the side, blocks 3 lanes of traffic. Now side, parallel, perpendicular to all the traffic. And everyone has to stop, but they can't say anything because it's a cop car, convertible cop car. And Dick says, "Bite your tongue, Helen. If it weren't for the police, you would have nothing but tragedy and mayhem. Like, just look at New York. They lost all their power once in the 60s, and it caused the riots and burning like you wouldn't believe, and it plunged the whole city in the darkness. No. People are only like the container they're put into, Helen, and if you just leave them alone, they're just wild, and they ping-pong everywhere out of control, and you gotta put them in a vessel, see? And they gotta take the form of that vessel and be trapped in that vessel so they don't just fly all over the place out of control. And that's why they need to be in this cup, this beaker of humanity, plucked and stuffed in there so that they can't go and just flutz all over the place being free." He goes, "Oh." So now they're back driving again, and he says, "Oh, look over there. Hey, in front of that hospital. Isn't that one of the most dangerous criminals of all time?" And the guy looks, "Hi, Dick." Well, he's not doing anything now, so let's get to this next fundraiser. So anyway, so now they get out, and she's like, "Well, what are you going to do now?" Dick says that's okay, because you see right in front of this place, there's just by convenience, there's this novelty store full of gag and prank toys, and I'm just going to pay $0.25 now to get this Dick Zapper. See? They just happen to have one in my size. Now turn around, Helen, while I put this on. Snug and tight. Let's go. So anyway, now they're off, to the next fundraiser, and once again, this time they're all seated, you see, so they all take a seat with this, this table with wine and cups, and they're all seated there. And, they're all sipping their drinks, but they all have, because they're all powerful men, their legs are all spread wide because they're in command of the situation. So they're saying, the same thing, "Well, I don't know if your crime statistics are really matching the amount of money I'm pouring into your institution, but I suppose you can never go wrong with more funding." Ow! And so it was going on like that, and Helen says, "I don't know if I'm going to be able to help you. He might be on to me now." I says, "Don't worry." And sure enough, just at the last moment, to get that little, Dick starts saying, "Well, maybe giving money to the cops isn't that great an idea." And sure enough, there's a swing, and the little Dick's finger goes, "Got him again, Helen. Ha ha ha, 2 for 2. And so anyway, so then the little gnome is just lying there all zapped out, but then he sort of rolls into the shadows under the table, and by then everyone's done giving their money, and they're on to the next place. So one more place before we get to catch this guy. And Helen says, "I'm still trying to figure out about the cops. You see, there are no cops where I came from." "Well, you must not be from America, honey. It's all about cops. I remember when I was a boy waiting every day to become a cop, when I could just be old enough to have a badge and be able to enforce the law. Of course, the law changes every 5 minutes, and that just makes it more fun because every day you're doing something different, see? Not boring." And so she's like, "Well, maybe you guys, I think, have you ever considered other models of social, shoot, Helen, we're too busy having fun." So anyway, now they get to the next place, okay? Now this place is, really ritzy. It's, rises up into the sky, and, and it has, all these windows and signs, and it's really clean. That's how you can always tell it's so clean. And so anyway, and so they get up, and they ride the elevator, 99, 89 stories up, and it turns out it's all in this rooftop garden party with these weird, things around, shield from the wind and all this, and there's, a pool, and there are, trees, and there's a sign saying no homeless, and it's all sorts of cool things, and so they're out there, and they're hanging out, and she's like, "So what are you gonna do this time, Dick?" He says, "Well, it's really simple. See that emergency medical tech over there?" She says, "Yeah." He says, "Watch." He walks over to him and karate chops him, and the next one he falls over unconscious. Then he wrenches him around, yanks the keys off his belt, and plunges it into a toolbox, which he opens and rips everything out, throwing it all over the place until he comes out with a tourniquet. And Helen says, "Was that really necessary?" Dick says, "This is an emergency." So that's what he does. He takes his dick, you see, and he ties it to his thigh. Okay, I don't know if some of you have had to do this from time to time when you're around really attractive girls, but you can't, show it. But anyway, so he takes it and he ties it to his thigh, okay, with his tourniquet, and he ties a knot so you can really unsnap it quick, okay? And then he sort of waddles, and this is probably the most tense-filled time of this entire case, folks, is that all the rich guys are off in the distance on this lawn, and normally Dick could just get right there, but because he's got his dick strapped to his thigh, it's tough, so he's kind of sort of like crab/jog, okay, like a crab walk with a jog, and he gets there by learning how to use his dick as a stabilizing force, and so he just sort of hops. He's able to make these super fast hops because he's got extra support in the thigh, okay, so he sort of lands right in their midst, and I think, whoa! Oh, you're late, sir? Oh, yeah, I'm right here. Jams us into the shoulders. But the rich and powerful. And so anyway, so there he is, and and sure enough, the dick swinger's doing the rounds, and Dick's really praying and hoping this will work, but he's all crammed in. It's hard to tell he's even there. Everyone looks alike in these suits, and they're doing the same thing. Well, I don't know if the performance of the police has been to my satisfaction. National statistics say, and then he goes, oh, yeah, definitely no money for the police, and they're just going back and forth. But sure enough, he still has time, you see. And he feels a little swing again, and just then, Dick rips the tourniquet off, and his thing goes, pling! And the little gnome, the dick swinger, he's flung into the air like imagine the most powerful spring you've ever seen, and just bing, and that's when the dick swinger, and everyone is looking at him up in the skies. This little tiny man flies up higher and higher and higher and higher, okay? And then they look down to Dick's member, which is like halfway into the circle, like a diving board, okay? And then they look up, and the guy's just going, wow, whoa. And one of them says, hey, aren't you a cop? And Dick says, how can you tell? Because we have the imprint of your badge on your dick. You must have had it in your wallet. And sure enough, on the side of Dick's dick is this giant imprint of his badge, okay? And he says, oh, well, yeah. He says, I've never seen such a fine example of a law enforcement officer in my entire life. I'm going to give my life savings to your police department. And I won't cry to you. Dick missed it up, and a couple of tears fell. Thank you. So anyway, now, Dick's walking away, and he sees in the corner there's one of that same criminal he's been seeing the last few faces is off in the corner, and he's sulking over his crushed wine glass. So he had this wine glass, and he crushed it in his hand, but the wine was too afraid to leave, so it was still staying there, trembling in fear, okay? And Dick walks up and says, you better let that wine go. So the guy drops his glass, and the wine flees off down the floorboards and drips off into the next room. And he says, now, what have you really been up to? He says, well, I've been trying to sabotage your police force by forcing this poor gnome to do my bidding. He says, you forced that gnome to do your bidding? He says, yes, you're damn right. I took his entire little gnome family, and I have him in a shoebox right now. So that's when Dick took out his Desert Eagle and says, you better set them free, or I'm going to stick this Desert Eagle up your eye and out your ear, and then I'm going to shoot it. So I says, oh, okay, here, right here in this tiny roach motel down in Ass Alley. So Dick right there radios freed gnomes in Ass Alley. And law enforcement's there, because they always do what Dick says. They love him. The rank and file loves him and trusts him. So anyway, that's when Dick realizes that the gnome was framed. So now he's running all around the top of the skyscraper, peering up into the darkness, trying to figure out when the gnome's going to come down, but he's still way up there. In fact, someone looked up there and said, I've never seen a gnome so helplessly high. And so the gnome is just still up there, and he's maybe now he obscures a star or something, but he's still in the process of flying up and then falling, okay? And Dick's running this way, and he's running that way. Where is he going to fall? How can I catch him? What am I going to do? And that's when Doc Spock appears. And Doc Spock comes up in his white lab coat, and he taps Dick on the shoulder and says, I see you have a problem here. Perhaps we can approach it with science. And Dick turns and says, who are you? He says, I'm Doc Spock, one of the other characters on King David's channel. And Dick says, but I'm the only character on King David's channel. And Doc Spock says, well, be that as it may, I see you have a problem trying to rescue this innocent gnome. Well, let's use science, shall we? It just so happens from one of my experiments that you can watch on King David's channel, I have a half-filled mayonnaise jar full of semen. And Dick says, whoa, and he starts backing away and cringing. He says, dude, around here, that's like holding a Newtonian bomb. He says, don't worry, I know how to handle it. I'm even wearing gloves. Now watch what happens. And he just walks out, okay? And very good, maybe right here, no, over here, no, right there, and takes off the lid. And right then you hear, ah! And sure enough, the gnome was falling right into the mayonnaise jar full of sperm. It's unbelievable, okay? And, and that's when the Doc Spock grins and says, science. He says, see, if you caught him with your hand, you probably would have still sprained an ankle or something. But since he landed into this jar of sperm, and by the way, sperm is much more dense than water by a factor of 3. So if you look at him now, look. Oh, God, help me. See, he's perfectly fine. Oh, science. And Dick says, wow. And he says, here. And now Dick's holding the semen-soaked gnome. The dick swinger at last. And Doc Spock says, all right, well, I'm out of here after all. It's your show, but thanks for letting me guest star. And walks off into the night and stops and says, do you want me to take that jar of sperm? And Dick says, please. So Doc Spock kindly takes it and Dick says, thanks, I didn't want to have to call a hazmat team. And so now it's Dick and the dick swinger, and they're both together right there, and they're both looking at each other, the dick swinger has cleaned himself up a little, and Dick says, I saved your family, dick swinger. And the underpants gnome says, the little dick swinger says, I know you did, I can feel their euphoria, their freedom. And Dick says, and while I should arrest you for molesting the dicks of countless rich and powerful men all across the city, maybe I'll look the other way and say I didn't find you when you fell, and you can go back to your family. And Dick Swinger says, that's really decent of you, Dick, but do you need a sidekick?